doesn't want to be ever. Yeah, just be about it. So. I wish I knew something as exciting as like yeah, this thing's last summer one of my friends found me. So it was in Calgary. So it was nice to go to the rest and like to see the Experiential
Okay, I'm going to get started. Right. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning? Good. Good. You're all so quiet. My name is Andrea, and I am the Recruitment and Admissions Officer for the iSchool. Thank you so very much for coming to the event today. You've probably spoken to me at some point or emailed me at some point throughout your application process. And I would first like to start off by saying congratulations. So this year was not like any other, this year was very, very competitive year. In the previous year, the number of students and the caliber of students that apply each year just gets greater and greater every year and gets better and better every year. And so competition for spaces in our program is that much greater. So congratulations for making it here and being admitted to the program, to the Masters of Information and Masters of Museum Studies programs. Please give yourself a round of applause. So today, what is going to happen is you are going to, so hopefully you already know we have fabulous programs here at the iSchool, which you're going to, if you accept our offer, be able to see as students very soon. But today you're going to hear from some of our fabulous students and faculty and staff and get you ready to start in September. And so we're going to start off with some of the experiential learning and career opportunities that are available. And then we're going to go through some iSkills and iPerks that are available to you as a student, as well as your next steps. So what's next? What's going to happen after today and after you hopefully accept your offers? And then we're going to have a student experience panel, followed by an alumni panel, and then a day in the life by Professor Colin Furness. And then we're going to do a mix and mingle up in the Podium forum later on. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. He is our amazing careers officer, Alex House, and he's going to talk to you about the careers and experiential learning opportunities at the iSchool.
Thanks, Andrea. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good.
Just passing off the mic.
Yeah.
The session's being recorded, so everyone's going to be hearing the mic.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for coming in so early. My name is Alex Howes. As Andrea mentioned, I am the careers officer here at the iSchool. My role here is full-time. I'm available throughout the year, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I'll get started by just going over what I'm going to talk about for the next few minutes. So we'll be speaking about some of what we call our work-integrated learning opportunities. As you can see, these are our CoOp, Practicum, and Museum Studies internships. Our intention is to provide you with these opportunities throughout your studies to give you the experience that you need to apply what you're learning in the classroom to the professional setting. I'll also be talking about some of the programs and services that we offer to all students. These include some of our workshops and advising opportunities that we have for you. And finally, we'll touch on some metrics that we record after every year. We actually sent out an alumni survey to all of our folks that have graduated to get some stats. So we'll go over some of those metrics at the end. And if you have any specific questions on any of this, please let me know. I'll be available after the presentation to talk as well. So our Masters of Information co-op program is now in our 3rd year, and we've had a lot of great success. Is there anyone here that may be interested in the co-op option that's in the MI program? Okay, great. Wow, a lot of you. That's awesome. So I'll go over some information here. So a bit of background. In the last 3 years, we've seen anywhere from about an 80% to a 95% placement rate with students who decide to take the co-op option. The remaining percent that do not apply to placement often do so on their own willing. Sometimes they prefer to take a full course load and other options as well. The co-op option is a very intensive program. It includes both a workplace prep course as well as a full 8-month work term. So it's something to consider. On the lower left, you'll see a sample timetable for those that are in the co-op program. The intention here is to provide you with a real foundational understanding of information studies before you actually go off into your placement. So you'll see for the first year, you're actually in class studying. In the summer between your 1st and 2nd year is when you'll start your placement. And then in the fall, actually, your 2nd year, you will also continue your placement. So depending on your course schedule, you might have to delay your graduation. You might have to come back in the summer for extra courses. So that's, again, something to keep in mind for the co-op option. Placements are full-time paid opportunities by the employer. We do want to make sure that you're getting paid for these opportunities. So it's also an incentive for you. On the right, you'll see a listing of some of the job titles and organizations that our co-op students have gone off into. And this is actually as of last year. So you'll probably see a mix of private and public organizations, a mix of anywhere from UXD concentrations to library science, archives, records management. So all 7 of our MI concentrations are covered in the MI program, or in the MI co-op program, rather. So there are some requirements for you to actually get into the co-op program. You do need to be a full-time student in the MI concentration, the MI program is a concentration path. The co-op program is not open to students that are in the CRO pathway or in the thesis pathway. Once you're in co-op, you're required to complete a minimum of 2 courses in your concentration. Before you start your placement in May, you'll need to complete 8 half courses and maintain an A- standing, as well as complete the 3900 workplace prep course. So this is intended for you to actually get a full understanding of what it's like to be in the workplace before you actually go off into your placement. Another one of our work integrated learning programs is our Practicum courses. The intention behind Practicum, which is similar to co-op, is to really provide you with the opportunity to leverage what you're learning in the classroom in the professional setting. And the difference between the Practicum and the co-op is essentially the length of work that you'll be doing. So you'll see here we have 2 courses. They run throughout the year depending on the term, fall, winter, and summer. And these courses are either, these projects rather, are either 105 hours or 45 hours in length. So in comparison to co-op as well, Practicum students have the option to select their projects. We compile anywhere from about 100 to 120 projects every semester. So you actually have the ownership to go in, review all the projects, and select the one that you'd like to take part in, rather than co-op, which is actually more of a job search process where you apply to a job, go through the interview, and get hired. So it's a bit more flexible. So depending on actually what you're interested in and what your needs are looking like, we can work with you to determine whether co-op or Practicum or any other opportunities are best fit for you. Finally, museum studies internships. Are there any museum studies students in the room? Okay, awesome, great. So at the bottom here, you'll see the majority, almost all, not all, but the majority of MSST students actually do take the internship option. So this is an option for you in the summer, again, between your 1st and 2nd year. So this is a 12-week summer internship. There is a prep course as well, similar to the co-op option. So we want to provide you with, again, the foundational knowledge that you need before actually going off into your internship. Internships are anywhere throughout the GTA as well throughout Canada. We have internships at the Royal Ontario Museum, the Art Gallery of Ontario, and many more. So throughout your time here, there will be a lot of opportunities for you to actually get support and improve your professional development and career development skills. So you'll have access to some of what we call our iSkills workshops, and I think Eden is here to talk about some of those workshops shortly. But I've got a list here of just some of the career development workshops that we offer. Again, you'll see topics anywhere from resume cover letters, how to interview, how to network, LinkedIn, leveraging LinkedIn. So these workshops are always updated based on the needs of our students and what we're seeing in the labor market as well. Alongside workshops, there are also, as I mentioned, advising appointments. So we're available all throughout the year to meet one-on-one, to talk about more in depth with some of these topics related to, career exploration, what can I do with my degree, to more specific job search strategies. Job site as well. Has anyone been on the job site that we offer? Great. Okay, it's a public website. It is a job board. I recommend everyone take a look at it in the next little while just to get a sense of the types of jobs that might be available to you, both during your studies here and after you graduate. You can just Google iSchool job site, you'll be able to find it. So we maintain that. We post job postings every day. So it's another good resource for you. And as you can imagine, there are a lot of events that take place throughout the year here at the iSchool. I've listed a few here. One of them is our association networking events. Each fall, around November, we bring in a number of professional associations that are related to the field of information. So they come in and talk about some of the opportunities that they have available, some of the trends that are happening in the field. Works as a great networking opportunity. There's also the employer showcase, which is essentially a job fair that we help coordinate. So that takes place every January often. So again, we bring in organizations external to the faculty that are hiring actively. So another good way to actually start applying for jobs and networking with folks as well. And I mentioned student groups. Generally, we do have our MISC and MUSA, Museum Studies and Masters of Information student groups. They run programming and events throughout the year, so we do support those folks as well in terms of panel discussions, networking events. And finally, outcomes. So as I mentioned, we do send out an employment survey to our alumni every year. I'll just go over some of the stats that we have. About 85% of students surveyed last year found full-time or part-time work within 1 year of graduation. Of those, 94% found relevant work in their field. We want to make sure that what you're actually studying is going to translate well into your career after you graduate. So those are quite good numbers, as you can see. Most of our graduates found work within the GTA. Our alumni community is a global community, though, so if you are interested in opportunities throughout the world, our alumni are in many places outside of Canada as well. People like to know about money as well. Money is important, so the average salary that we get, that we hear from, is about $60,000 per year, and that's kind of in the middle range of what we see. And what else? As well, at the bottom here, the methods, we ask students, how did you find your job? So these are the top 3 methods that students have indicated. The first is networking. The next is a company website. So again, whether that's the Toronto Public Library or the Royal Ontario Museum, and the job site as well. So we're excited to hear about that. So keep those in mind. That's it for me. I want to end by saying thank you. I want you to hopefully see me when you start your studies in September, and thank you very much. So I'll pass it on to Andrea.
Up next, we have Eden Russell. She's a public services librarian. She's going to talk to you about the iSkills program and some of the wonderful things that happen with our Inform and the Inform services.
Okay, I will take this. Thank you very much, Andrea. Just let me get all my notes here. I have like 400. Oh, even better. Get this on all fancy. There we go, like I'm a professional or something. So welcome. I'm excited to see so many of you here. I'm going to talk to you about, as Andrea said, I'll let you take your piece of paper, the Inform Library. So the Inform Library is the library for the Faculty of Information. We bring users, resources, services, technology, and expert staff together in one physical location, as well as several virtual spaces, to form a community hub for the Faculty of Information. Our mandate here at the Inform, or there I should say, it's 2 floors above us, is to support the studies, research, and professional development of iSchool students and faculty, to act as a resource for the rest of the university community, our alumni and information and heritage community, and to provide a space for iSchool events, including professional development events, as Alex mentioned. We also seek to provide study space that suits both individual and collaborative study, as that is what a lot of the program is. So the first thing I'm going to talk about a bit is our collections. We have 3 main areas of collections, 2 of which are highlighted here. We have our print collections, our technology collection, and then online resources. Our print collection is that of a specialized library specific to the concentrations of the iSchool. We have a specialized collection development policy where we collect works related to library and information science, archives and records management, museum studies. We incorporated the museum studies collection, as well as there being the ROMS museum study collection, for those of you who are in museum studies. And the ROMS collection is specially circulating to iSchool students. We have knowledge management, information systems and design, culture and technology, user experience or UX design, and information policy. We also have our reference collection and our periodicals collection, which are also specialized to the subject studied at the iSchool. And we also provide course reserves, which is where you can find materials that would otherwise be textbooks you buy at the U of T bookstore. So in order to facilitate not having to spend too much money on textbooks, pretty much, as well as to make these resources available more widely. We also have our technology loans. The Inform Library's technology collection comes by way of Tech Fund, which is a fund that all iSchool students pay for. It is technology that is specifically and uniquely available to iSchool students. And we have, as you can see, we have iPads. We also have laptops, both Mac and PC. We have cameras. We have technology accessories. We have iPads, as I said, and Surface tablets, as well as other tablets for design. We also make sure these are installed with software relevant to the courses that are being provided at the iSchool, as well as assisting with making sure that other software is available, specifically design software or other systems design software that might be used in your courses. We also gather online resources that are available through our website, both through the general UTL online resources, so that's the University of Toronto Library System, and ones specifically made available by the iSchool and by the Inform. So one of the things that the Inform also provides is the iSkills workshop series. These are a series of workshops that are free to iSchool students, and as well as we're working on making them available to alumni. And they are, as Alex mentioned, they're workshops that cover a variety of topics, some of which include professional development, that are relevant to your course offerings. We work together with professors and with professionals in the information and heritage field to make sure that we cover all of the things that you might need to know. Looking at I have a giant list of example titles. I'm just going to read off a few at random. So we have 3D printing, we have digital preservation with Archivematica, cataloging using CIRCE, data visualization, web accessibility, forensic disk imaging, how to interview, so one of the professional development ones, inclusion outreach and barriers to information services, introduction to Photoshop, press release writing, programming with Python, storyboarding, user experience, web archiving at UTL, and writing business reports are just some examples of the variety of topics covered. We offer these every semester, usually closer to the start. There are usually several sessions of each workshop, and they are, as I mentioned, free to attend. And we try to cover everything. If there are areas, when you see the offerings, there are areas that aren't covered, we also do solicit students for areas that they're interested in learning, and we're always open to feedback on that front. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the personal librarian program. So here are the 3 other librarians who work at the Inforum. From it'd be your left to right, there is Elisa C., who is our collections librarian, Kathleen Schaefer, who is our outreach and instruction librarian, and Nalini Singh, who is our reference services librarian. In your first year, you will receive an email from through the personal librarian program. This is where we divide up all the students, and each one is assigned one of these 3 librarians at random, usually alphabetically based, to be your personal contact with the Inforum. The personal librarian program is something that other parts of U of T run. We run ours specific to the iSchool. And the goals of the program are to provide you with a contact that you can ask pretty much any question to. We want to increase awareness, to foster connection, to save students time, and to provide professional advice to students. So you'll be emailed by them at the start of the term. You will also be emailed a few times during the year with suggestions for resources and to keep you posted about many services that are available. And you will also be able to, as I mentioned, ask them anything. We also encourage you to ask us anything up at the desk, even beyond the personal librarian program. This includes referring and connecting you to other areas of UT if you're not sure where a question should go. That's also one of the central services we provide. Next thing is iRelax and Mindful Moments. So the iRelax program, or iRelax as a space, is U of T's first secular, ethically and sustainably sourced mindfulness resource area. So it's located on the 4th floor of the Bissell building, so the main floor of the Inforum, and it offers its visitors a variety of physical props, including yoga mats, meditation cushions, benches, and print resources on a first-come, first-served basis to be used throughout the Inforum. We also offer sound-canceling headphones to go along with guided meditations provided on iPods, as well as guided yoga instruction. The goal of iRelax is, which was developed by Kathleen Schaefer of the previous slide, is to provide items to assist with resilience, personal development, stress reduction, and increased focus throughout the year. It is meant to address the diversity of students' needs through inclusively advocating, supporting, and expanding wellness learning and wellness practices through the University of Toronto, while simultaneously destigmatizing mental health conversations. Related to that, Kathleen Schaefer also hosts the Mindful Moments sessions. So once per week, there is a guided mindfulness relaxation session held in the Inforum. We post signage about it. It's usually held on Thursdays. And it's a great place to go spend an hour sort of engaging in mindfulness actively and in a way that allows you to develop your own practice. I'm just wondering how much time I have, if I'm good for time. Okay, perfect, because I'm coming to my last slide. So the last thing I want to talk about is the staff that brings it all together and how you could potentially be a part of it. We have on our team right now 12 fantastic Inform student assistants, or maybe it's 11. There are so many, but if I listed them all, I would take just as much time as I did to say this sentence. Anyway, if you are interested in enhancing your iSchool experience and earning money while doing it, the Inform student assistant part-time positions are a great place to focus your attention. In the fall, or before the start of the fall semester, so in August, we send out a call for student assistant applications, and we encourage people from all focuses, all concentrations and programs to apply. This is a fantastic place for experiential learning, and it is an opportunity to expand your horizons and to get great experience in your area of interest. Students have worked on projects in the past in areas of collections development, reference and research communication, displays and exhibitions, IT, outreach, workshops, and public services. If you want to chat more about this or about anything else I've said, feel free to come find me after, or I will be at the reception at the end. But the student assistants are a great part of a great team that works to bring together resources and services for students at the iSchool. We've got our team of librarians, our technicians, and our student assistants. And we're all looking forward very much to seeing you here next year. I'll pass this back off to Andrea.
Thank you very much, Eden. Up next, our most fabulous assistant dean, Barb Brown, and her very wonderful,
It's bring your
yes,
dog
bring
to
your-
work day. That's right.
Ella is her name.
I apologize. I'm great. I'm not going to even use that. I have a, is that what's recorded? I'm going to pass that to you. Ella, come here. Ella, come here. Good girl. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. How are you? You don't usually bring your dog to work, but my daughter was still sleeping when I was dropping her off, and she didn't answer the door. Okay. So it's my job to, first of all, welcome you. If you are sitting here, I've looked at your application, and I've accepted you. I must tell you, you're one of 1,000 applications that we look through each year, which is extraordinary. And we only accept approximately 200. So you should feel very good about being invited and being here today because you're one of an exclusive group. So I want to tell you what to do next. So as you get to know us, at this point, you have to accept your application. When you got your offer, you were given 4 weeks to accept. I would be sensitive to that date because we have more applicants and more available excellent students than we have spaces. You may receive a note at the 4-week mark, and we will potentially take back the offer if you haven't accepted in time. So that is something to consider. And how to accept is very straightforward. You can send us an email, scan the form, send it back. It was part of what you received in your package. And you do have to pay your tuition deposit of $500 by the deadline, which is June 1st. Now, if you're having a problem, just get in touch with us. We're very accommodating. We do try and work with you, but just be in contact with us if there's any challenges. And it tells you there where to send it, which is not to us. People want to pay us, and we'd love it, but it actually goes to student accounts, which is part of Central. Okay, so the important things to get ready in time for our next event is to make sure that you're properly logged on, that you're connected, that you have access to all of the information you're going to need in order to facilitate enrollment, which is the next part. So first of all, you have to log on to Acorn, and the information is there for you. We'll be sending everything out. The slide is going to be available online, so if you're not writing it down, don't worry. It's really important that we have all of your updated information. Many students move, etc. So we do need to know how to reach out to you and contact. That email, there is an official email that we use that you're given by UToronto. It's mail.utoronto and your name at the beginning. We will use that as our official way of communicating with you. You need to sign on for Join ID. You have the Join ID number, which was given to you by SGS in your when you were accepted. If for some reason you can't find it, just get in touch with the School of Graduate Studies, and it happens a lot, and they'll be happy to update you on what your Join ID number is. If you are seeking housing, certainly there are supports for graduate housing and helping you to find appropriate accommodation. So that is the information for you to look at. Sorry, I'm just not following this slide. There's the Grad House. So do make sure that you get in contact if you're moving to the city. They also have really good resources of what you can expect as far as costs. If you're not from Toronto and you want to get a breakdown of what it's going to cost roughly for rent, etc., they have that information and the kinds of costs that you can approximate. So, getting started. Sorry. Did I go past one?
Nope, you're good.
Am I good? Okay, so on Saturday, July 14th, that's the day that we bring you back together again to talk about what courses you should be enrolling in. Enrollment starts approximately 2 weeks later. And it happens and it's very rude. It's at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you are a week following current students. So we give first dibs to placement in courses to students who are in their second year and beyond because they have to complete their degrees. And so they're the ones who are online first, a week before you, and then 6 a.m. in the morning, yes, then you get to enroll in your courses. You enroll in both fall and winter courses. So you get the full array, and you will be seeing those courses listed by no later than the end of May. So you'll have a good month and a half to be reviewing the courses and what you want to take. But in order to support you, to be ready to understand what fits you specifically, we do a number of things. There are course sequences, and those are online, and those are suggested pathways for each concentration. Do look at it. We have it for the CRO, we have it for any of the pathways pieces, GPO, any of the concentrations, double concentrations. So do take a look at it, and because that's what we say is probably, if you were to stay on course and things move smoothly for you, that is a suggested pathway. So that's important to do. But because you can customize with over 40 electives, you're going to want to figure out what electives make the most sense for you. And the brilliance about this faculty is that with 7 concentrations, if you're in the MI or in the MMST program, there's such a wealth of ways to customize your degree. And you're going to want to cross over. So even if you're, say, for instance, in UXD as your primary concentration, you can take required courses from the other concentrations as your electives. There are also the opportunity to take courses from across the university. You're allowed to take up to 4 electives from elsewhere in the university. So there's a lot of great ways to mix and match. So we want to spend a day where the faculty are with us, and they sit down with you per concentration and answer questions about electives that make sense. They're there to be a resource to you before you come and actually do that enrollment at 6 a.m. a week following. So that's a really good program. Now, if for some reason you can't be with us physically, the following week we do the same event online. It's not as personalized, it's not as customized, but it will give you the basic information that you're looking for. So, sorry to hold another Saturday for you, but it's a good event too. So that's about attending and figuring out what the degree programs are. Now, one of the things that has happened this year, I know many of you are interested in book history culture as a specialization. It is being, the deadline is April 10th, I believe, for that one, book history and print culture. How many people? I know a lot of people mentioned it in their application. There's a few of you. Specializations have changed this year based on ministry guidelines. So this is the first year it's moved from a program to a specialization. And in all of these, this means that the Faculty of Information have formed a partnership with the host faculty. We are only the host faculty for knowledge media design. And then all the rest of them, there is a course that we offer that is part of that specialization. The biggest change that's happened is that they have streamlined what it takes to end up with a specialization designation on your transcript, which generally means you have had to take 5 courses in order to achieve that specialization. In the past, it could be roughly 3. So it really has upped the ante to make sure that people have developed a certain body of awareness, knowledge, etc. within that specialization. Now, if a deadline has passed, you can always reach out to that host faculty and ask if they're still accepting applications. So these are the deadline dates when, and some of them, as you know, most of them are ongoing. That goes right up until the start of year. But pay attention if you have any questions. I'm certainly here to answer those questions. And T-card. We try to make it easy for you. The other thing we do, you need your T-card to sign up for all the kinds of services and supports that you're going to get at the university, and it's your ID that you show at library, etc. So what you want to do is they actually have to take your photograph. It's a process that you have to do in person, and so we actually ask them to come to the getting started. We don't want to see you have to stand in the huge lineups that form for every U of T incoming student that has to get one. So we've set aside a special arrangement with the T-card people, and they'll be here on that date in July, and you can get your T-card while here. Okay, so as I said, it's your identification for all good things. And finally, your last, when you have to register by. So these are, by registration, it's different than enrollment. Registration means that you've paid your tuition. Now, roughly, and we have the information on the schedule of what your tuition is. Normally, the announcement for tuition changes doesn't happen for another month. So you may not see, but you can see what this year's schedule was. Roughly, it's a $25,000 degree. Divide in half. So it's $12,500, I'm rounding it. Part of that is tuition, other parts of it is ancillary and incidental fees, which are charged to every student. And those are things like student union, health services, etc. And while speaking about health services, we are a faculty and a university that really supports accommodation of our students. So if anyone here needs accommodations formally, through their medical practitioner, etc., it's been identified. Do get in touch with our accommodation services. You need to be registered, and then they will work with you to evaluate and support you with the letter of accommodation that you then work with our faculty and with student services. We're here to be your support and advocate as well. Generally speaking, this faculty is extraordinary and have absolutely full support for anybody who needs to have an equal playing field developed. So, money matters. You should have applied for OSAP by now, and we really encourage everyone to apply for OSAP. It does, and if you're from out of province, there's equal provincial grants available from provinces across Canada as well. But you do, because that provides us with the background to be able to evaluate other supports for you. So because it requires documentation, formal documentation, and it's evaluated at the ministry level, then we are fine with that information and then make further decisions on how to support you beyond that. So there is a form that you will be given. Every student is asked, besides OSAP, to fill out a form that allows us to give you to consider a professional program bursary that we have offered through the faculty, and that is added to what you may or may not get from OSAP. So we take the information from OSAP when it comes in, we evaluate that, and by the time November comes, we have decided what additional funds to potentially provide for you in addition to what you received from OSAP or didn't receive from OSAP. There are other things and other ways to generate funding. If you have any questions, you can set up two things. The University Grad Services area actually has financial consultants as well, where you can meet with them and talk about the financial matters. We also do within our faculty, Colin Anderson, who's our associate registrar, establishes meetings if you want to have a one-on-one meeting with him as well. There is also, and we're kind of mixed about it, the Scotia Professional Plan for Students is an agreement that was set up with the University of Toronto, specifically with Scotia. We've had mixed results. It's supposed to be a preferred interest rate. And so if you do go that route, do tell us what your experience is. We advocate for you. But there is an arrangement and an agreement with Scotia for that. And we have a specific person and office that you contact. So that's in our information we send out. And there's also awards. The entry awards have already been determined for admission this year. They were notified, people were notified last week and the week before if you were to receive an entry award. If there is, if you have any questions about that, you can certainly speak to me. And if there's any further challenges, again, those steps about finding out how to access further funding is available to you. There we go. I think that's it. Anyways, congratulations, and I look forward to meeting you in September.
Totally forgot I was wearing that.
Thank you very much.
So much for taping.
Throw the batteries back in. Perfect, thank you very much, Barb. All right, so up next. So now that you've learned a little bit about the experiential learning opportunities available here, a little bit more about the iSkills and other perks, And your next steps, we're going to move on to our student panel so that you can hear from the students and hear about the students' point of view. So the MI student panel will be in here. For any museum studies students, your panel is going to be up on the 3rd floor in room 313. When you go up the elevator to the 3rd floor, you can either go left or right. Either way will take you to room 313, and it's just at the back. So you can grab a snack on your way up and head there. And then after that, you're going to come back here and you're going to hear from some alumni with our alumni panel. And then also in here, you're going to hear from Professor Colin Furness. And then we're going to head back upstairs after in room 417 for the mix and mingle. And then you're going to get to chat with everybody you heard from today. Okay, so thank you again very much for coming. And I look forward to seeing you back here in a little while.
So awkward. Oh, shake one.
Whatever.
You have to list the gym.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I probably
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming in. Can everyone hear me? Yes? Awesome. Hello?
The podium mic is for them to hear you. The lapel mic is for everyone else being recorded to hear you.
All right. Does that sound good?
You're going to talk into the podium mic for everyone here to hear you.
All right.
And the lapel mic is being recorded.
All right. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Emma. I'll be the moderator for today. I'm just finishing my first year. I'm in Knowledge Management and Information Management. I'm also the Vice President of the Master of Information Student Council. So come and chat with me about student council things and things to get involved with for clubs and special activities. But now I'd like to introduce our lovely panel. So if everyone would just let us know your name, the concentration that you are in, and what your academic background was, like your undergrad or any other requirements you might have had.
Sure. My name is Hugh Sampson. I'm in the Master of Information program. I'm finishing my first year and moving into the second year. I have LIS as a concentration, and I'm also doing a thesis. My academic background is that I've completed a Bachelor of Arts in Classics and English, a Bachelor of Education, and a Master's of Literacy Education. So I really like school. Yeah.
My name is Mary Francis. I'm a first-year student, just finishing up as well. I am the Archives and Records Management concentration, but I have taken a lot of classes in SIPs, so I'll take questions about that too. And I did my undergrad at McGill. Majored in archaeology and minored in cultural studies, and that's it, because I don't like school as much as you.
My name is Jason. I'm in the double concentration of UXD, User Experience Design, and Knowledge Management and Information Management. And I did my undergrad at Western University for the Media Information and Technical Culture program.
All right, so we have a wide variety of experience from everyone on the panel, so I have to ask, what made you guys choose the iSchool?
So for myself, in the university that I was studying at previously, I also worked in the university library, and I quite liked it. So I decided that I would do studies in library and information science. So I actually applied to a couple of different programs across the country. I'm actually from Nova Scotia, and so in addition to gaining admission to U of T, I was also offered employment at U of T. I think it being such a big university, there are lots of employment opportunities around campus that smaller universities don't necessarily have. And so that was really a big factor in my coming to study here as well. And I was really grateful for that because of U of T's excellent reputation and the fact that the Master of Information here is actually broader than perhaps the MLIS degree at other universities. So that was also really appealing to me to be, I guess, to have my degree be more applicable to a wider range of different potential job opportunities afterwards.
So the iSchool at U of T was actually the only master program that I ended up by applying to, simply because of its flexibility. I definitely came in knowing that I was going to do the archives and records management concentration, but the idea that I could take so many electives from a number of different concentrations was really appealing to me, because I wanted to do culture and technology and I wanted to do SIPs, even though it's not really possible. So just knowing that I could take those classes and have that opportunity was definitely what made me pick this.
For me, when I was looking for a graduate program, I wanted to pick one that would really prepare me for the future. So I was looking at some statistics, and these are from 2014. So 2 million articles are published online every single day, and over, I don't know if this number is accurate, but it says over 5 billion videos are watched on YouTube every single day. So we're living in an age of exponential information. It's out there. So concepts and phenomena like information overload, social media anxiety, and the devaluation of information are new problems and things that we might not be aware that are happening to us. So I wanted to have a degree that could help me design systems and interfaces that could help alleviate that problem instead of contributing to it. That's why I chose both the KMIM and UXD degrees here. And on top of that, at Western, I was learning about philosophers such as Marshall McLuhan. And he happened to teach here as a professor of English. And there's also part of the iSchool, the McLuhan Center for Culture and Technology, which is part of the CNT program here. So I guess it was natural for me to kind of want to continue my studies here after my degree at Western.
That's great. Something that I've always found with iSchool students is that everyone comes here to follow a passion. And I can definitely see that from experiences here. People follow an interest, a thread, and they find so many other openings and they kind of pursue those. So I wanted to ask you guys, what is kind of the most rewarding thing that you found at iSchool? Was kind of the most rewarding moment when you felt the aha in your studies?
So I've had a number, and so I'm just going to tell you about two that happened this week. Earlier this week, I had an opportunity to chat with a faculty member whom I will work with on the thesis, and I'm really excited about that. Earlier, Eden actually mentioned the iRelax resources in the in forum, and so I'm thinking about looking at how libraries are rolling out these kinds of resources and why, to encourage mindfulness and really the growing need to support students in these kinds of ways. So that is potentially an area that I will study, and so I'm really excited about that. And second thing is that yesterday I received an email inviting me to work at Librarian Archives Canada over the summer, so that's like super exciting. And something that I wasn't really anticipating. It means kind of juggling because I anticipated taking courses this summer and just signed up for them like 2 days ago, I think.
At 6 a.m.
Yeah, at 6 a.m. Yeah, so now that means perhaps changing my plans a bit, but interestingly enough, there are also summer courses that are offered in a modular format on weekends. So I may actually still be able to take some courses throughout the summer anyway. So yeah, those are my two exciting moments this week.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say it's been a rewarding year. It's a lot of work, so coming to the end is kind of nice, getting everything in. But if I had to pick a highlight, I'd have to say it's my involvement this year with the ACA. So we have a student chapter here for the Association of Canadian Archivists, and I had the opportunity to be part of the executive team. So that really gave me an opportunity to work on a lot of their different events, so organizing panels, contacting panelists, which is a really great way to network. So I just had like the opportunity to meet a lot of really amazing people. Alumni, other students are interested in the same thing, so it's definitely been, for me, a highlight.
For me, it was the iSkills workshop. So I learned different things that that courses didn't cover. So for example, I learned two new pieces of software this year. One was for machine learning called Data IQ, and another was for data visualization called Tableau. So it was a good jumping off point because they had experienced instructors. I think both of them were PhD levels, and I think both of them were in learning at the iSchool as well. So that gave me contacts that I could go refer to, have mentors for these kinds of new topics that I want to get involved in that my professors might not be as knowledgeable about because they're emerging technologies such as like 3D printing. You can learn how to 3D print here. So I thought like the opportunities to learn like those new things outside of the classrooms was very good. And I'm glad, even though they're sometimes on Fridays and Saturdays, I'm glad I took the time to come down and take those workshops.
All right, so we're going to go from the high point to maybe the lowest point. What's everyone's toughest challenge that they've had to face this year? You can be honest.
So for myself, it was definitely a back injury that I experienced in November. I just had a really bad back injury, and it really took me by surprise. It was in my first semester. It was really quite overwhelming, and to kind of have to, I've moved halfway across the country. I'm enrolled in a new program. I'm 2 months in. I have all of my final papers due in like 3 weeks. It was quite overwhelming. But what I have to say is actually, as Barb was mentioning earlier, folks in the administration office were very understanding and supportive. And so I made sure to gather the appropriate documentation, to kind of talk with folks in health and wellness here at the university, and to get their advice and feedback and basically what's needed as evidence of having experienced this. And so in having done so, all of the administration and the professors whom I was studying with were all very understanding, and I was able to get some extra time so that I was able to recover. But it was definitely challenging, and I say all this really just to encourage you all to make sure to take care of your health while you're studying. I actually incurred this back injury not from having bungee jumping or something, but actually from just studying too hard and having had chronic pain and just ignoring it for a really long time until it reached a critical point. And so I say this just to really encourage everyone to make sure to take care of your health while you're studying. Study hard, but also really pay attention to how you're feeling. I know that I often found ways to kind of put my health second, and this year was a big wake-up call into how important it is to really take care of one's health while also trying to excel academically.
I think a challenge for me this year has been, honestly, time management. I think for me, there was a bit of a shift from my undergrad to doing this graduate degree, and it took me a while to kind of get in a groove of trying to remind myself to not take on too many things at once, just because it was a shift in what I was studying. I hadn't taken a lot of classes in archives yet. I did more of the archaeology stuff, and I tend to want to do a little bit of everything, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. So yeah, definitely time management, kind of just creating a schedule that made sense for me was definitely on the more challenging side.
Yeah, that's a similar problem with me. It was because I'm also a commuter student, so it takes me an hour to get from Richmond Hill to downtown. So time management and also schedule management was a big part of a big change for this year. Especially for this term, for the winter term, I have 9 AM classes. So learning how to balance homework, especially because in the UXD concentration, most if not all, the projects are group work based. So you'll have projects that are on a continuous basis, maybe for like 3 weeks when you're doing a design sprint. And it's not like an essay where you can, just hand it out in one night. It's dependent on your teammates' progression, dependent on the stages of completion. So being able to manage and segmenting the workflow, maybe if your Professor Finesse talking about it, and having like a due by date instead of a deadline, so you have some breathing room before the assignment's done is something that I learned to do well. Also, yeah, making sure that, especially in group work, make sure that everyone's on the same page is another part of not only keeping your grades happy, but also like keeping everybody on the same, because like group projects and this concentration might like last for a whole term. So if something goes bad, maybe the first few weeks, you want to be able to learn how to correct that and stay as a group for the whole semester.
So on the theme of time management, maybe it's kind of the product of the gig economy, but I find that a lot of iSchool students, we're not just students, we have jobs and volunteer activities, extracurriculars. So I hope you guys can walk us through kind of a day or even a week in the life of an iSchool student, what that means and how you manage your time, even taking time to take care of yourself.
Sure. So for myself, I take 3 courses right now per week. I was doing 4 last semester, so I decided to take 1 less just to recover from my back injury, basically. So that in itself was a tough decision, but I think there's time to make up for that later in my program. So I take 3 courses. I do 1 per day, 3 days a week. In addition to studying here, I also work at Trinity College, which is just like 2 streets over. So basically kind of throughout the day, I move back and forth between these 2 places. In addition to working there, I also do a lot of extracurriculars. So actually I am on the Master of Information Student Council with Emma as the Academic Affairs Officer. And Emma is Vice President, but next year there's a pretty good chance she may be President, and she's awesome. And so there are lots of awesome opportunities to get involved with the Master of Information Student Council. There's quite a lot of stuff happening, which is really cool. By virtue of being the Academic Affairs Officer, I also sit on Faculty Council, and I get to kind of see some of the inner workings of the Faculty of Information, which is really cool. And I also sit on Programs Committee, which is also Faculty of Information, kind of like a small group that makes a lot of interesting decisions around programs and new concentrations, new courses. So that's really interesting to see how those develop. That's one thing. And then I'm also the vice chair of the U of T student chapter of the Canadian Association of Professional Academic Librarians, which is called CAPL, and the iSkills Doctoral Student Association Truth and Reconciliation Student Working Group. I have to like look at those because they're just such long titles. But so there are lots of really interesting groups to get involved with some of them are shorter commitments, some are, a bit more, but you can kind of choose what works for you. And then finally, last semester I would do lots of iSkills workshops. And also there are really cool Graduate Center for Academic Communication workshops and graduate professional skills programs workshops. And these are happening kind of like all over campus. Like there's so many ways to do stuff. And this semester I'm doing a little bit fewer of them because I'm trying to go to the gym and do physiotherapy. So I've had to sort of rejig and reorganize things a bit differently, but like there's so many things that you can fill your free time with very easily. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think or at least for me, a day-to-day schedule changes all the time. But I do have like kind of a base to my schedule. I also a full-time student, so I'm taking 4 classes. And the way it worked out this year is I had class Monday through Wednesday, and then I would work off campus, very boring, basic student job in a restaurant from Thursday to Saturday. So that was kind of like my 6-day week, and then I usually try to keep Sundays as like a grace period for anything that I need to get done, homework, projects, assignments, meeting up with groups, that sort of thing. And from that base, I'll kind of throw in whatever I can, fill up my week as much as I can. So, ACA meetings, usually once a month, but then also they're, trying to attend pretty much every event that you can, so all of the panels. That took a lot of time, more last semester than it did this semester. I kind of took a step back this semester since I had a pretty heavy course load. And then, yeah, I think that was about it. I did sign up for some iSkills workshops as well this semester. So filling in those on the weekends when I had time when I was off work. Social life sometimes when you have time. Lots of naps. I'm a big napper. That's it, I think.
For me, I also plan my course schedule so that I have at most 2 classes a day, and those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for both terms. I'll tell you about my busiest day, which is on Monday this term, for my 9 a.m. class. So I wake up at around 6:30 a.m. 7 a.m. drive to Donville Station, get on TTC, and then have class from 9 to 12. And then at 12 to 1, I would have lunch. And then at 1 o'clock, I would have class until 4 p.m. And then at 4, I would go to the gym to play basketball at the athletic center. And there's drop-in basketball and other sports as well there. And then at 5:30, I would come back for my shift at the Inform Library until 8:30. And then I would go home and at around 10 o'clock start my homework for the night, check on group projects, see what the updates are, reply to messages, and try to get some meetings done, maybe. And then sleep, and then wake up at 10 the next day.
So the interest of time is going to finish off with a piece of advice everyone could give. It's just kind of a 1-sentence wrap up that you could tell your past self before entering the iSchool.
Take good care of your health.
I think just be open-minded. Don't be afraid to take classes outside of your concentration. Sign up for workshops with things you're unfamiliar with. You know, things like computer stuff because that scares me. But like, yeah, be open-minded.
I'll give more than a 1-sentence. Definitely make sure to go to the Getting Started session on July 14th. In that session, I met people that were outside my concentration. I also met people that were in my concentration that would eventually become my close friends. I met them there. That was really nice. And then also, this is my opinion. I believe that like when I applied here, I was not only paying for tuition, but I was also buying 2 years of time for myself to develop my own interests. So I want to encourage everybody to always at least make some time to develop on your own projects and your own side interests. So one of my own interests are learning how to 3D print orthotics for people with flat feet or plantar fasciitis. So one of the professors here, Matt Rando, is actually has experience with that. So I didn't know that unless I did my own research. Oh, and that also leads me to my second point, which is also to look up the research for your professors. It's good to read up what they're studying because they're going to be mentioning it in class a lot. So I'll speak to my concentration. So Professor Olivier St-Cyr, he did a lot of research in medical devices and user experience for medical devices. So I know a lot of my colleagues are interested in pursuing usability and like medical devices afterwards. So they were really interested in attending his office hours. So yeah, make sure you do what is interesting to you in these 2 years. Yeah.
All right. So that concludes the formal panel. Everyone, a round of applause. Thank you. We have some time for the alumni panel. I'd like to open up the floor. Does anyone have any questions for our great panelists? Yeah. Right.
This one's for you. You said that you worked with Trinity College. Is that as the academic affair officer or?
So at Trinity College, I'm an academic don, and so basically actually this is a potential employment opportunity for folks. A number of the colleges on campus have donships, which basically are employment on campus where you support students, and we have this sort of dual student life academic support role, and then by virtue of that, we have accommodations on campus, which is super cool. Yeah.
Yes, right there.
I have a question for Mary Francis.
Yeah.
The Association of Canadian Archivists, is that something you came to be a part of through the school?
Yeah, so it's our students chapter year, and they were actually at our, I don't know what day it's called, it's like where they have the fair with all the clubs. So that's at the beginning of the semester, and they were there, so I ended up by going to their first meeting, and they do have spots open on the executive for your first year, so members at large first year liaison and I think a EMEA liaison. So I went to the first meeting, I really enjoyed it. I'm really into the archives program, so it was a great way to meet other students. And I ended up by running for member at large, as well as first year liaison. They ended up by giving me member at large. So yeah, and then they just had their elections for next year's exec, but there are still positions open for first years.
Yeah, that's the club's fair. It's usually at the end of September, right?
Yeah, it's usually like pretty early into the, yeah, recommend going. They have a lot of them close.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question for Jason about commuting. So I'm going to be commuting from real far away, and I was just wondering how you kind of like how you manage your time on those commutes, because it's going to be about 2 hours one way for me. So would you recommend like doing readings on the subway and that kind of thing? And did you find it still possible to be engaged on campus for the long commute?
Oh yeah, definitely. I find it's good to have time to recharge in between classes. So you take that hour between 12 and 1 p.m. It's good to just sit and relax, eat your lunch. But in terms of like planning your time for commuting, I always check the traffic before I go out. So, but by now I learned like how what the approximate drive is to get to the TTC. I know other students they take the GO train, so I know that you need to go from Union up here, so that might take a little bit longer. But in terms of staying focused in class, definitely learning to sleep on time is a definitely plus. So I learned to not sleep ever past 12, past midnight, because you need at least like 7 hours minimum sleep. So that I think that's the most important part for commuters to sleep.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question for Hugh. So you mentioned you're on a truth reconciliation panel here at UT. Did that start from the CFLA recommendations?
That's a great question. So I know it's really, in particular, an initiative that started by a particular doctoral student. I think she's very much influenced by the CFLA recommendations, which are something that we've discussed in a number of our courses. There's a doctoral student here whose name is Jamila, and so she is doing her doctoral work around truth and reconciliation and indigenization of libraries and lots of decolonization of libraries, like lots of really interesting work. And so she, I think, thought there was really a place for a student working group. And so it's largely composed of doctoral students, but also folks from the Master of Museum Studies program now and Master of Information program. And so they're organizing a number of events throughout the year. And most recently, there was a talk by someone here on campus, an Indigenous elder, who spoke about the importance of storytelling. And so the idea is to continue and to have multiple events ongoing. So it's very cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that.
Great. We had a question right here.
Yeah, it's gauche, but money matters. So how do you guys make it all work being full-time students and paying, $25,000 for a degree, especially on additional degrees or after your undergraduate? Don't have to get into numbers, just methods and.
For me, I know that one of the internal awards really helped. So at the beginning of the semester, I think one of my friends went to one of Alex's talks, and he mentioned that there was like an online form that you fill in, and you're automatically considered for internal awards by our faculty. As well, I work in Inform for about 12 to 15 hours a week, so that really helps. And I also really enjoy working there, so it doesn't seem like work to me. Yeah, that's how I see myself.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty lucky. I have a really great support network at home, so my parents have kind of made it a little bit easier for me to not work as many hours. So definitely very lucky in that sense. I do work usually about anywhere between kind of 10 and 20 hours a week, depending on how the semester goes. I do work in the restaurant business industry just because it does make more money. Though I do wish that I could maybe find a job more on campus related to my field, that would be nice. But I think for me, my parents have just made it a lot easier, so I'm really lucky in that sense. But I haven't worked too much with, I know there's a lot of opportunities through the school for financial aid, so I would ask maybe somebody in that area later would be a question, like an answer a bit better.
And for myself, working while studying has been kind of a part of the process, but I'm also, and I don't know if this is a very popular answer, but I'm also really not afraid to go into a bit of debt if it means changing my life circumstances really completely and open, like so many doors open from advanced education, I think, that I would rather, like, I just kind of decided that's okay. I mean, I have so many friends who owe so much money for houses and van, like the amount of debt I'm incurring as a student is actually very little in comparison to the amount a person would spend for a house, for a van, for a, so on and so forth. So that's sort of how I rationalize it. And I think, but at the same time, while working and trying to keep that debt as low as possible, but not being so afraid of it, where some people really work a lot and then consequently maybe don't find the time to rest that they need. So I think there's really a balance to be struck between trying to pay everything as one goes on, but also being open to like incurring some debt if that means having a balanced life.
I would also say from my experiences, definitely take this upcoming summer to work as much as you can and to prepare yourself for the field. Because I find a lot of the assignments that we have in courses, they're helped and buffered by the work experiences we have. So you might write an assignment on a system that you've been working on in class or at work. So it definitely helps to have some experiences. So take the time now to look for jobs that might be of interest to you and of interest to your future program of study. But there are certainly tons of opportunities on campus for work. I can talk about other financial aid, but if you're looking for work experience, which is why we're at professional master's program, there's tons of opportunities on campus. Like all of the Facebook groups for student life, any of the student unions, for the graduate student union, they're always hiring students, even just for part-time work on campus, casual deployment. It really, really helps. And I often find that when you work in tandem with your schooling, that time management kind of comes naturally to you. And it really does kind of help you bolster your time management for assignments. And I've always found that since I started working and getting more involved, my grades went up too in some strange way, but it really helps. So ask us as many questions as you'd like during the mix and mingle, and we'll be happy to tell you a bit more details. But there's opportunities and there's ways and means. So don't feel like this is an insurmountable obstacle when you see kind of the price tag on Acorn. It's definitely manageable, and there are ways to do it. All right, how are we doing for time? Is it? Yeah. All right, thank you everyone for coming out. Everyone will be here for the mix and mingle, but thank you for coming out.
So while we wait for our wonderful alumni to come down, as well as our Museum Space students to come down, I'll just ask our alumni to come and have a seat up here, and I'll put your name cards in. So if you wanted to take 5 minutes to run to the bathroom, you can. So we'll get started in just a little bit. Yeah, I was gonna it's like your second. Okay. I know I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he still might have some.
Yeah. They thought that they're wrapping up, but then later on, we said, yeah, for 10 days. Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. We're gonna start our next panel. My name is Rachel. I'm a second year student here doing the CRO, so I'm doing both programs. So during the meet and then if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If you were unaware, this is our alumni panel. So we have 4 lovely graduates of our program here with us today. And just to get started, I'm going to ask all of them to do a little introduction, just your name, where you work, a little bit of your background, and what your concentration or program on the iSkills was. Start here.
Hi, I'm Jillian Clinton. I graduated in 2000, which didn't seem like that long ago, except it is. I work for Clinton Research, funnily enough, and on Thursday, I celebrated 26 years in business, which also surprised the heck out of me. What were the other things?
What did you study?
Oh, so they only had 3 streams when I came. And I studied part-time, so I took 6 years to do my program. And I did the library stream, it was the main stream, and it had the most options to do different things because I just wanted a broad background in library, and it served me really well.
I'm Eve Lang. I work at a national law firm called Macmillan. I'm currently the national manager there, so I run the libraries at the firm. I graduated in 2009, and I was also in the library stream, but one thing that I really liked was that although you were in one stream, you could still take courses in other areas.
I'm Eden Russell. You might remember me from earlier this morning. I graduated in 2017, so I am brand new out of the program, and as you heard, I work part-time as public services librarian upstairs in the Inform, and I also work part-time at another position doing information systems work because my concentration was information systems and design, although I did sort of take a little stab at everything else just because everything else is very interesting. So I did do some library courses. I don't think they would have made me a librarian otherwise.
Hey, I'm Judith. I'm a UX lead at Tribal, which is a global digital agency. So I graduated around 5 years ago, and I did the information systems design stream because there wasn't a UX stream at that point, but was kind of able, with some of the new courses that were coming out, to kind of cobble together like a UX course. So yeah.
Okay, well, maybe if we start with Judith this time, what have you learned from the program that's been useful in your current place of employment?
Some of it wasn't even so much about the program as about the connections that I made. I didn't realize when I was here, when I was doing, like semester-long projects, like group projects, that the people that were in my class were going to become my professional network after. I'm still in touch with a lot of people, even like, not as friends, but as peers. And it's been a really kind of helpful way to kind of hear about different like job opportunities and kind of continue to network. So I would say, definitely it's like people remember you and they remember how you worked when you were in those group projects, and it kind of will continue to transfer over after you graduate. So that was a big takeaway for me.
Okay, like I said, I studied ISD, but I sort of dipped my toes into a bit of everything else. And I think one of the things that these courses taught me a lot about was learning about information. So the skills, the ideas, the approaches, the knowledge that's transferable between all the concentrations and the linkages that can be made between them is giving me a strong basis to approach a lot of different kinds of information work, and has given me also a strong appreciation for the kinds of work that goes on in the information field. And I think that was something that that quite a few of the profs have a great handle on. And a lot of the introductory courses talking about the state of the field were really useful for.
And to contrast that, for me, I really enjoyed the practical classes. So I knew I wanted to be, your traditional reference librarian. So I took all the classes that I needed to take to be a law librarian, and actually was able to go into interviews and talk about, how I was going to approach different things. So I think that's really strong. So you get the theory in your sort of introductory classes, and then you can really drill into where you want to go from there.
For me, it was research skills. So I had started my business a few years before I started coming here, based on things that I thought I knew. And I think if I had known, if I'd graduated first and then wanted to start my business, I'd have been too scared. So ignorance is bliss to a point. But then I learned the skills that I needed to obviously make a success of it. So the research skills, and it wasn't just, there were extra courses sometimes. In some of the courses I took, there'd be an extra day, or they'd have an industry person come in and then they'd give you an in-depth look at how to go into some of the databases. But it's more than just how to search in a database. It was also how to interview your client or your patron, whoever it is that you're helping, how to get the information from them about what they want, because they often can't articulate it. And so the research skills include trying to understand what they're asking and then rephrasing it and then coming back to them and saying, is this what you mean and is this what you want? And so that also served me well, because one of the other things that I like doing is every few years I'll take a one-year contract and I'll work as a part-time reference librarian at one of the universities or colleges in the GTA. And so I get to upgrade my research skills, but I do research with students as a reference librarian, but I'll also do research for professors as well. And so that those original skills that I got in those first few courses that I took have really stood me well.
Excellent. So I know my next question might be a little difficult to narrow down to just one, but what would you say was one of your most rewarding moments at the iSchool? And I'm just going to leave it up to whoever would like to start.
I can go. It really was a series of moments, and it's relationships. It's relationships with my fellow students, people that I met right from the first day of the first class that I took, which have stood up through time. They provided me literally with jobs. They provide me with emotional and professional support. I still meet 20 years later, more than 20 years later, I guess.
We still meet occasionally for meals, or we email each other, we send each other information, we see something, it's like, oh, this must be interesting to you. And so it's about the relationships, and not just with my fellow students, but with the professors as well. I'm currently, one of the projects I'm working on, or my business is working on this year, is a second edition of a book on the G20, and that's for somebody who was a former adjunct professor here. He taught international government documents, and he's a fellow at the Monk Center now. And I've been working with him for over 20 years on the various books that he's published on the G7, G20, civil society, things like that. I have a history degree as well as an engineering degree, so I'm sort of bilingual in things. And it's the relationships that I've formed with, so I started out as a research assistant for another professor, Chun-Wei Chu, I think he's still here. And Peter Heinel was looking for a research assistant, and Chun-Wei referred me to him. So it's about relationships again. And then I've had this relationship with Peter now for over 20 years, and I get to work on really interesting things. He takes me along to conferences. Sometimes I've met Nobel laureates, and I just learned really interesting things. So it's about the relationships.
I feel like that was my answer.
And this is another relationship, actually, because we were both on the executive for the alumni. And I was off for a few years, but Eve has kept in touch with me, and she's welcoming me back now. And that's also, it's all part of the relationship thing. Sorry.
I have one that isn't that. So while I was here as a student, I worked as a student assistant at the Inform. As you might remember, Jason, who was sitting here earlier during the MI panel, says that he works there currently. And it was a very unique experience. I think all of the SLA and GSLA positions are phenomenal for their experiential learning component. I think they're very useful, especially if you're considering working in academic librarianship. But I think working in the Inform in particular, I got the opportunity to develop a very thorough knowledge of the library, just by working with the librarians there and the library technicians who do a lot of the work that maybe goes a little unseen when you're just interacting with the library from the front end, or even when you're taking your classes, just because the work is so different. And also the relationships that I was able to, back to the relationships, was able to make with people outside of my concentration. So I think one of the most rewarding aspects of those kinds of relationships is the ones that are ostensibly interdisciplinary. Speaking with people who are in different concentrations and studying things that are ostensibly unrelated really highlights the baseline nature of information work I found, and makes it very easy to move across those lines and to find your very interesting niche of work.
I think for me it was probably actually a course and a professor in particular. I have an undergrad degree in history and actually came to the iSchool because I thought I wanted to be an academic librarian. And I kind of spent my first semester feeling really lost because I took the survey, or the intro general courses, and it wasn't what I thought that it was going to be, or I knew it wasn't the right fit for me. And so I to be honest with you, feel like I meandered my way through my first year, kind of taking courses. And then in my first semester of my second year, Colin Furness put together the information architecture course, which he was teaching for the first time. And it was just one of those cheesy but true light bulb moments. I was like, oh, this is a job and this is what I want to do. And I kind of just, that course, I was like a sponge, learning that course. I remember it was the 6 to 9 on a Wednesday, and I had classes, I had 3-hour classes, and I never skipped it because I love that class so much. And that kind of, if it wasn't for that class, I wouldn't have gone down my career path. And so that's, yeah, Colin Furness in particular, amazing prof. He had such great industry experience that he shared as part of his lecture materials. So just, yeah, that was a moment for me.
We all get to hear from Colin Furness.
Next. So I didn't actually get a chance to share. But what I wanted to say was, so yeah, the relationship and the networks, but it's happening while you're at school. So my little success story is I was just in a class and I just happened to like answer a question really well. Like it just was a prof question. It was like, oh, you know, what do you know about this? And you know, it was free for all. And I'd answered a question that showed that I had prior knowledge from my undergrad degree. And I didn't even know this opportunity was out there. It wasn't even out there yet. It wasn't posted. And the chief librarian at the law school, law library, said, oh, we have a summer position. We hire somebody every year. You know, can you send me your resume? You know, seems like you have a good background. So starting from that, working at the law library, and then you know, making myself known in the industry, or in the, I guess not industry, but in the group of law librarians is sort of interesting because now I'm looking for people that are engaging with the community in that way. And I was actually talking to Rachel, just seeing it go full circle in the sense that, you know, I'm very much a part of the faculty in my capacity as the Faculty of Information Alumni Association president. So I'm always here like at events, and we've hired people. I've hired people that I've met at events. So it's kind of come full circle. And also being in, you know, at U of T in Toronto means that any event that the faculty is hosting or that the Alumni Association is hosting, getting your potential employers or potential future colleagues in the same room, you know, right next to you.
Yeah, and I'd say we start building those relationships from day one, orientation. So our final question, what is one piece of advice that you would give to our new high school students?
To get involved in the school. I know it might be hard if you're part-time, or it might be hard if you feel like none of the events speak to you, but I think there are a lot of opportunities to get involved with student council, with different student chapters of associations, with different positions, research assistant positions, work study positions, just volunteering at events. And these are opportunities to, if you feel that there's not something for you, to make something that is for you, because if you want it, chances are you are not the only one. And I think that there are a lot of people in the faculty who are very open to hearing student voices, and finding who those people who are willing to listen are and letting them know what you think is definitely a great way to make your involvement worthwhile. But just getting involved in and of itself, making relationships that will help you in your career, and also that will potentially be friendships that will help you in your personal life, and trying to enjoy working with people. That's the big one, because a lot of people, I've got a lot of people come in, sorry, I'm taking like all of them. I'm just gonna say everything, none of you get a chance to talk. Coming in with a willingness to work with other people, because I know a lot of, especially high school group projects, set people up to dislike group work, and it's not the case here. There are a lot of fantastic people in this program, and working with them has always been the highlight of any course for me. Okay, now someone else.
I'd have to agree with that. I use the words networking and volunteering, but they're so important. I did do the degree part-time, and I did one course a semester, 3 semesters a year for 6 years, pretty much. But it is still possible to get involved. It doesn't necessarily have to be formal. You don't have to take on a position in an association or a committee or something. Just your time, maybe an hour a semester or something, or talk to people. Part of networking is just talking to the people who are sitting next to you in a class. Maybe you don't know them, or somebody behind you. Just say good morning, and then eventually, you know, you'll find out more about them. I had a horrendous, it was a course I really wanted to take, but it was in January on Monday mornings at 9 a.m., which was just brutal. But I learned some really interesting stuff from some of the people who were in that course, things that I had heard on the news, but I didn't understand the meaning of. And so it's talk to the people around you, any kind of networking at all. If there's something where they're asking for someone to spend half an hour or an hour helping out with something, try and squeeze that in as well. So it's volunteering, making yourself known. And it's not just your fellow students as well. Talk to your TAs, talk to the profs. I still have great relationships with a number of the profs here, and it's a nice way of growing your career. It's very, very rewarding.
I will caveat, I think this advice is more for people that are interested in doing the UX stream. I've been a little flabbergasted at how evolving this field is. I feel like we're kind of constantly in an identity crisis. The software that becomes like the industry standard keeps changing. The expectations of the role seem to be changing too, where, you know, companies are starting to ask for, you know, maybe having like UI skills as well, being able to do user research. And a couple of the things that I think have helped me are really kind of the ability to learn and continue to teach myself, whether it's like how to use new software or kind of, you know, learning from other people on the job as well. I'd encourage people in UX stream, like there are all kinds of tech meetups in Toronto, and I think it's kind of, it's a 2-year program, which in the UX world it's a long time, and I think it's really important to kind of stay current on what's going on in the field. And start to kind of develop, to be honest with you, like some of those hard design skills and putting a portfolio together so that by the time you're graduating, you can hit the ground running. I would say make your own opportunities. So yes, there's going to be all of these presents waiting for you. So here's this volunteer opportunity, or here's this. But if there isn't, what do? You should make your own opportunities. So an example of where I did that was there wasn't a student liaison on the Toronto Association of Law Libraries. I really wanted to work in a law firm law library. So I wanted to, you know, make myself known. And, you know, there were, let's say 10 or 12 people that were really interested in doing the same thing I wanted to do. So I just went to a member of the executive and I said, hey, do you have this position? And they said, no. I was like, could I do something? They're like, yeah, self-directed. You know, you can do whatever you want. So basically what I did was arrange 3 different law library tours, which meant for the students, but which meant I got to talk to 3 different law library managers. And so they knew who I was. Fast forward 2 years, I went away, took a job outside of the province and came back, and they knew I was looking for a job. I was like, oh, I remember you. Okay, we'll keep our eye out and we'll see. So I would say definitely make your own opportunities. The Alumni Association puts on job shadowing program. So take advantage of that. Like Jillian said, it might seem like during your semesters here, you're just hunkering down on your assignments and whatnot, but take that half day and go to your job shadowing. And let's say you sign up for something and you are interested in something else and it was full, like just check in with Andrew to see if, or just check in to see if you can contact the host directly and say, you know, I know the position or that's full, can I, you know, come outside of the job shadowing program? So I think it's what you make of it, and I really believe in that. And anytime somebody comes for a job interview and kind of has shown that they've gone over and beyond what's kind of status quo, I really see that as a good quality.
Addendum to that, I think people are much happier and much more open to being approached than you might think they are. Mm-hmm. People are very willing to be approached about opportunities like that, where you want to make your own opportunities. So I think just think about how you would feel if someone asked you to do something like that, and generally if you would feel, you know, good, like you're willing to do it. Like clearly we're all here willing to volunteer our time and to encourage you. So it's not something to be afraid of.
Absolutely. I actually hosted a job shadowing once through one of my clients, and it's a great way for the hosts to get to know people without going through, you know, formal interviews and things. It can be a more casual thing, but you remember people and what it is that you liked about them or what was special about them. And I actually had an elevator conversation some years later where somebody was looking for someone with skills. He said, actually, he wanted my clone. And I'm thinking, I don't know. And then I thought, wait, there's that girl who came and job shadowed with us, and she got the job. So because I had spent that half a day with her, and then I had seen her a number of times at alumni events or whatever. And it really does make a difference. So, and we want to, you know, so do talk to people, approach them. People are flattered that you're interested.
I have another small success story. It's not about me. I was speaking at Vicki Whitmell's class, so that's the Practicum class. It's a really great class. And at the end, I said, oh, I'm here for another 10 minutes. Any questions, come up. And so a couple people did. They grabbed my business card, and I said, if you want a tour, just contact me. And one of the students actually did. And then fast forward a year later, we had a job opening, And she ended up being a successful candidate, not only because she's excellent, but also because she'd already been at the firm, and had heard me talk in class and also at the tour. So she basically sort of knew what we were looking for, and had an edge over every other candidate because of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump into and say I also similar stories from my field as well. And I spent probably the last couple of years just meeting with different students, doing portfolio reviews. We hired a junior designer it was a portfolio event, and so it's just showing up to events, making those connections, and then it'll pay off in a job for sure.
Yeah, we have some great networking events and really amazing ways to meet professionals in the field, so I highly suggest them because I think they're fantastic. So, but I'd like to thank all of you for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us, and thanks for taking a little bit out of your day to come speak to everyone. So, thank you.
I guess we can
Okay, good afternoon, or good morning, actually. I'm not quite there yet. My name is Colin Furness, and I'm one of 2 teaching stream faculty in the MI program. Most professors are normal research stream, and they're hired to do research and forced to teach, and I was hired to teach and forced to do research. So we all do the same sorts of things, but with a slightly different emphasis. I was asked to talk to you about a day in the life to give you a little bit of insight, I think, into how your time here can unfold on sort of that level of analysis. One reason I think they asked me to do it is that I have been a perpetual student for so many years that it actually starts to get embarrassing. I have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 degrees from U of T. It's not publicly known. I'm starting another one in the fall up at Boise. I know it's a little crazy, but let's just say I have a lot of experience being a graduate student, full-time and part-time. How many people here will be studying part-time? There's some part-timers, okay, but a majority are full-time. Okay, well, I want to just go over a few things. Let's see, there we go, overview. I want to talk to you about how, for many of you, coming here may be different from your last degree, because you may be thinking about your undergrad, or some of you, does anyone have a master's already from another program? Oh, quite a few of you, okay. So there may be some similarities, but there may be some striking differences. What kind of schedule to expect? How does life unfold? You may have gotten that little bits and pieces from the alumni or the other presentations you've been to. And how to, what I would say, max your iSkills experience so you end up looking a bit like that person, but maybe without the headache. So let's start with main differences from your last degree. I don't want to make assumptions about what your undergraduate or your prior master's may have looked like. But first of all, how many people here are from U of T? Oh, quite a few. Okay, so look around if you're not. Because people who have experienced this large institution ought to know, hopefully know, a lot about some of the nooks and crannies around campus and some of the things that make this actually a wonderful, what I will just go ahead and call a city within a city. Does anyone know how many students are at U of T?
Something like 80,000.
90. Yeah, 90,000. Yeah, they're very close. That is, in fact, the size of a city. So it is something to bear in mind. This is one building, a rather oddly shaped one. We love it for what it is, but it's only one tiny piece of a much bigger place. So there's U of T itself, which may take some getting used to. I mean that in a good way. there's really diverse demographics, and I think that's a strength. Anyone who studies human behavior as I do understands that diversity is a strength almost all the time, and it certainly is here. If you were lucky enough to do a full-time undergraduate degree, if you look to your left and look to your right among that population, you're of similar age and so on and so forth. Here, you will find there are people who are mid-career. There are people like me who look tired because they've got kids. There's full-time, there's part-time. There's also such a range in what we study here, from book history to programming. And that is a wonderful, wonderful thing to behold. It can seem bewildering, but in actual fact, what it should really motivate you to do is to strike up conversations whenever you can with the people around you, because there's a lot that you can get from perspectives that are diverse. Grad school versus undergraduate. So many of you have a master's degree, which is great. Don't feel like you're somehow inadequate if you don't. But I think it's important to see a graduate degree as a graduate school as being a little bit more independent. Imagine your assignments aren't provided as a recipe for how to get it done, but a problem that you need to solve. In many cases, you will have experienced that to some degree in your undergraduate, but you might not have, depending on your discipline. So you may have to contend with more ambiguity. You may need to work very closely with your peers. You will find you do a lot of group work here. This is not a place where you're expected to study in isolation and then go to a really horrible exam that traumatizes you for months. If you did a science degree here at U of T, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is not that sort of place. You will do group work in most of your courses. And that's actually a pretty phenomenal thing, because it starts to resemble the workplace that you're going to go into next. That kind of negotiation that has to happen, that kind of collaborative approach to problem solving and to learning. And so in that sense, that's very, very different. We take a more of a nurturing, real world oriented, team collaborative approach to learning. And we see it as being an enormous strength. So if you're afraid or looking forward to more of your undergraduate experience, be prepared for something that feels quite different, I think, in a lot of ways. And then there's professional training. We focus on professional training. That's not to say that we aren't proud of our research roots. Of course, I told you I'm a teaching stream faculty, so I've got this really biased, deliberately, purposefully biased view of what we do here. We are a doctoral research institute. I did my PhD here, I know that very, very well. But for most of you, your end goal here is this is your terminal degree and you're going into the workplace. Now, that said, I thought that was true for me, and that was what my second degree here. So stuff happens, you may find that you end up being sucked back in, but that's a conversation for another day. For the moment, let's assume that for many of you, for a majority of you, a vast majority of you, the focus here is on professional training. And I'll get into in a couple more moments what that implies for how to spend your time here, how to make use of your time here, and how to approach your experience here. So courses, you may have gotten a little bit of this already, but I was asked to talk about day in the life, so I do want to give you some nuts and bolts. Courses typically meet once a week for somewhere between 2 and 3 hours, okay? And a course is 12 weeks long. We have a reading week in the fall, which is pretty humane, and a reading week in the winter too, which is pretty normal. If you take a summer course, we don't have reading week. But typically, your courses will meet once per week for 2 to 3 hours, and typically, if you're full-time, you'll take 4. You can get permission to take 5. These are time slots for courses. You'll notice the morning starts at 10 past 9. Lunch afternoon starts at 10 past 1. That's an undergraduate oddity that's accepted or adopted by graduate studies here, so that we're all dealing with the same mutation of what most people understand to be standard time. U of T starts classes at 10 past the hour. There is a reason for that. It's not cheapness or laziness, although it actually accommodates laziness in the morning. Sometimes 10 minutes are a real lifesaver. It's long enough to slurp a coffee. No, the actual historical reason is that our campus is so big for undergraduates to have time to move from one class to another. And that begs the question, why not finish class at 10 to the hour and then start on the hour? That would work just as well, except people like me who are used to talking and talking and talking just won't sometimes finish 10 minutes early. So it seems to be easier to get people to stop right on the hour and then give you 10 minutes because you're not going contiguously from class to class. These extra 10 minutes don't give you much apart from, as I say, coffee time. So 9, 10 to 12, or a subset in there, and maybe by vote you would meet a little bit later in the morning or finish a little bit earlier. 1, 10 to 4, and standard evening slot is 6:30 to 9:30. Again, individual instructors with permission of the class may shift this ever so slightly here or there, but for the most part, those are the numbers that you'll be looking at. And if you have an afternoon class and an evening class, you have a couple of hours here, and I'll talk to between classes, and I'll before I let you go, tell you about some of the things that you can expect to encounter during those 2 hours. There's also, we're experimenting more and more with modular and intensive formats for courses, so you will start to see these in the course schedule a little bit. They may seem a little bit confusing. You may, instead of encountering a course once a week for 2 to 3 hours, have it intensively on, say, 4 weekends. So it might be like an all-day Friday and an all-day Saturday thing. We don't typically do classes here on Friday, by the way. But so if you want to sign up for that, that shouldn't be a conflict. So some do that. Is anyone here in the Executive ISD program? EISD? No, okay. So EISD courses tend to follow that format, and it allows us to actually accommodate people who are working full-time, who don't want to just do courses at night. I actually pioneered, it's me, the Friday night class this summer. I know that sounds really awful, but actually it's a different way, and it's the first time for me, but it's a different way of doing course. So this summer I will be teaching a core course, INF 1003. If you're in KMIM, ARM, those two for sure, you have no choice but to take this course. You'll probably take it in the fall with me, but if you didn't and you wanted to take it in the summer, perhaps next summer too, you'd be able to take it over 3 weekends. Thursday night, Friday night, and a chunk of Saturday. It's intensive and intense, but it is actually in some ways quite efficient. So that's something that you may encounter in your schedule. Are you going to be forced to do a course in intensive format? No, not unless you're in the EISD stream. So it's something that you may be able to encounter. But for most of you, those 3 time slots, Monday to Thursday, in the morning, afternoon, and evening is where you'll find your classes. Summers at the iSchool. I already told you about the demented summer I intend on having here, or at least 3 weekends. So summer courses are typically 6:30 to 9:30. You'll see sometimes to 4 to 7. And again, that's the idea of having evening classes and not day classes in the summer ought to be obvious. You can have a summer job and still do a summer course if you wish. 4 to 7 means that you might need to negotiate with your employer to get out of work just a little bit early once a week. But the majority of them are in fact 6:30 to 9:30. And it gets a little more complicated because summer courses come in 2 flavors. They can be what are called A or B courses, which means instead of meeting once a week like a normal course during the year for 12 weeks, you meet for twice a week for 6 weeks. So Band-Aid off fast. You get the course done in 6 weeks, twice a week. And if it's an A course, it's May to June, halfway through June. And if it's a B course, it's halfway through June through July. And what's nice about that is if you did want to take 2 summer courses, it actually allows that to happen without scheduling conflicts. We don't usually do Monday night classes in the summer because there's too many Monday holidays. It's a problem. But Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday do allow that. Or you might have a wide format class, which is 12 weeks. So I'm teaching, in fact, 2 courses this summer. One is the painful 3-weekend format, and the other one actually is going to be once a week for the full 12 weeks. So I'm doing it both ways. But I want to point out, that not everything is scheduled. There's a lot of opportunities for learning outside the standard classroom. And so I think it would be unfair or inappropriate to talk about a day in the life without actually talking about some of that non-standard stuff. First of all, there's reading courses you can take. You may have heard of that, you may encounter that. A reading course is a contract between you and an instructor who you negotiate with to say, hey, there's this particular topic I really want to delve into. And if you find one that the professor wants to learn a little bit more about too, you may actually have a meeting of the minds where essentially you do something self-directed, you work out a reading list together, you agree on deliverables, which could be a couple of papers, it could be a presentation, it could be a publication, it could be all sorts of possible things, and you decide how often you want to meet. Maybe you meet weekly, maybe you meet every couple of weeks, and you do that on essentially on your own time. That's something you're more likely to do in second year than first year. That is to say, you want to see that as an elective or something building upon some core concepts that you've encountered. You're allowed to do up to, I believe, 2 reading courses in your degree, and you might be able to do more with permission. But I think Very few people do one, almost no one does two. So dealing with wanting to do more than that seems unlikely. But it's something I want you to consider as an alternative to simply filling up your docket of 16 standard courses that are offered. There's the thesis stream or the thesis option. When I did my master's here, I did the thesis option, even though I didn't think I was coming back to school, because people will tell you if you want to do a PhD, maybe this is a good trial. I did it because back in that day, and it's a long time ago, for what I wanted to study, there weren't a lot of courses. There weren't enough. Course offerings are amazing now compared to what it was like back then. And so for me, wanting to actually delve into something, that seemed to be a really, really good fit. And typically you have to do a research methods course, and then you do a reading course with your supervisor to get some depth in specifically myopically what you want to focus on. And then you are usually executing a research study and writing it up. And it's a wonderful experience. It typically occupies 4 of your 16 course weight. So it's sizable, but for some of you that may end up being quite a good fit. So that's a combination of standard course and reading course and working on your own. But there's also experiential learning at the iSchool. And it just so happens that experiential learning is one of the things that I'm told I need to be our expert on, and I have been working very hard at becoming an expert on that. So much so that I almost said, I'm the expert. I'm almost an expert. Remember that master's that I'm starting in the fall? It all starts to come together to form a coherent picture.